It's frozen. It completely locked up.
Hey everybody, welcome back. And if you're new, thanks for stopping by. Today, we're taking a look at my wife's PC, which was formerly my PC prior to building the Corsair and getting my Alienware. As you can see, it's quite dirty and hasn't had a good cleaning in quite some time, and I only can blame myself for this. Alongside of that, it's also freezing randomly, and have had a few B-sods recently. That all said, today I'm going to clean it up for her and give it a crucial upgrade that should speed things up and stop the freezing and B-sides. But before I get into the teardown and cleanup, let's do a startup test and see how long it takes for Windows to boot. As you can see, we're just over 36 seconds, which isn't bad, but I think we could do better. Also, as you saw in the beginning, and currently going on in the background, it froze on me while I was trying to re-download Steam and trying to use the start menu. I don't think it's anything to do with the RAM or CPU, but rather the Transcend SSD that I have in there. It really isn't the best, and I did get it for pretty cheap a few years ago. It also took almost 40 seconds for it to finally respond after locking up, and you could see that I was quite furiously mashing buttons to try and get it to respond, maybe bring up the task manager, or just try and shut it down and restart it. I'm not sure exactly how often she's experiencing these freezes and B-sods because she's only mentioned it a couple of times, but if I had just one trying to download Steam and open the start menu, it's probably happening at least 1 or 2 times a week, if not more. If it was my machine, I would be quite frustrated by now, so let's get this on the workbench so I can clean it up, add that crucial upgrade, and rid her of these frustrations. Now that we have her PC on the workbench and the side panel removed, I'm going to start the teardown by removing the power from our AMD RX 480. While it is an older card, it is quite decent for gaming still, and perfect for my wife and the game she plays. However, what I'm going to focus on today is the CPU and SSD. The SSD that she is working with is a Transcend 480 gig SSD. It really isn't anything special, to be honest, and I would not recommend this as a primary drive for your PC to install Windows on, as it really just does not perform well as an OS drive, but it is decent for a secondary drive or just extra storage space. I'll link it down below just in case, but trust me, there are much better options out there. Anyway, let me get this torn down the rest of the way, and I'll jump back in once I'm pulling out the CPU. Now that I have most everything removed, let's take a look at the CPU. It is an AMD FX 8350 and is still a very decent 8-core CPU for casual gaming, but the thermal paste has seen better days. It was getting pretty dry, so not ideal for keeping the temps down, and as well is about 7 or 8 years old. Anyway, I'm skipping over the cleaning and jumping straight to adding the new thermal paste so you don't have to hear the whir of the compressor and can save your ears from the sound of the air noise. The thermal paste I'm going with is this Arctic MX4 thermal compound. I've used this in other applications before and is perfect for the CPU. I actually recommend this as I've used it on Nintendo Switch boards and as well other PCs, so I'll link it below. We don't need much more than a pea-sized drop there, as it will do the job. Overdoing it shouldn't hurt, but I'd rather not go overboard and have some for later, as I will be fixing another 2 Switch motherboards in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. But now that we have that back on, let me go ahead and reinstall everything else, and then we'll get to that crucial upgrade I will be installing. So here's that crucial upgrade I mentioned earlier. See what I did there? Haha. Anyway, it is a crucial P5 500GB NVMe M.2 SSD. This is about 10 times faster than Transcend, and probably should improve the Windows loading times, and as well get rid of those random BSODs and freezing issues we were seeing earlier. Also, as you'll notice, I'm not a very smart man and installed the GPU, and this has to go below it, so we'll have to remove that again before we get this installed. Anyway, let's cue up the music, I'll get this installed, and I'll be back with you shortly. Alright, just take a look at how much cleaner the PC looks compared to before. This should help out with the airflow and hopefully won't have to do this for a while. However, having 2 dogs, I'll probably need to dust it out in a month or 2, but I promise I won't let it get as bad as it was. I did try to cable manage a bit, but had limitations with the power supply as it has short cables and isn't modular. Anyway, I'm going to finish up plugging everything in here, and then we'll get into Windows to set up the new drive. I'm opening up Windows Explorer first, just to double check if the drive shows up or not. As you can see, we aren't seeing the new drive, so we'll need to initialize it before we can use it. To do that, simply open the Start menu, search for Disk Management or Drive, as I did, and select the Create and Format Hard Disk Partitions. Once that opens up, it will sometimes automatically open the Initialize Disk Wizard when detecting a new drive, but I was skeptical, so I double-checked the properties of the drive before going through the wizard. If you, for some reason, don't see that window pop up, you can always right-click the new drive, which should have a black bar across the top, and click on New Simple Volume. You can go through the wizard with default settings, as you really don't need to change anything here except giving it a unique name. You can change the volume size and all that, but it's really not needed unless specific to your application. You will notice I ended up canceling out of the wizard the first time, as I wanted to double check the default volume size was correct, which it was, but I'd rather be safe than sorry when installing Windows on a new drive. So I went back through the process, double checked the drive letter, then gave it a unique name, which I put NVMe, and then we just have to click finish. But once that's completed, you can see the black bar is now turned blue, and the drive is now ready to use. So let me shut down Windows here so we can get ready to install Windows to our new SSD. And here's what we're going to install. Well, actually, we aren't installing Windows 7, but this is where I keep my Windows 10 install on a micro SD card, as these things are quite easy to lose. I actually had a micro SD card end up in the garbage disposal one time. I'm really not sure how, but it did get shredded and I lost some dash cam footage to that. Anyway, let's go ahead and turn on the PC and get prepared to install Windows 10. Now, this is where I sort of messed up, and I will speed through the install of Windows as I ended up doing it twice. The reason I messed up is when installing Windows to the new SSD, I did not unplug the old one first, therefore the boot directory was installed to the old drive. On my first startup after I went through the install, I had the Transcend SSD still plugged in, and would ask me which Windows 10 did I want to boot into. I really didn't want that to pop every time, so I just went in the computer and unplugged the Transcend drive. When I did that and rebooted, I got the dreaded, please insert a boot volume error. The reason that error kept popping up is because the boot directory was on the old Transcend drive, so it never created one on the new SSD. Therefore, I had to run through the Windows 10 install process again, but like we did before, I'll speed up the process so you don't have to wait the full 20-ish minutes it takes. I just wanted to mention real quick, I did have to delete the new partition we set up earlier and reformat the NVMe, so don't make the mistake like me and make sure to remove your old SSD before installing it on the new one. Also, don't format your other drive yet so you don't lose any of your files. Anyway, let's get back to the install, and I'll be back with you at the end. Alright, Windows is fully installed and booted for the first time. As you can see, the resolution is off here. However, I haven't installed any drivers yet. So, let me go ahead and do that off camera, and as well get a couple programs and games installed, and then we'll go ahead and do a boot test here next. Now, it just takes a little over 24 seconds to boot all the way into Windows. While not a huge improvement, it is much better than the 36 seconds before, so a 12-second improvement. This is much better in my opinion, and should also see faster load times for programs and games. One of the reasons I did this is because me and my wife are planning to play a few games together, record them from both our perspectives, and upload them to the channel with our commentary. The first game we plan to play is It Takes Two. We both already have the game purchased and installed, but are just waiting till we have a day off on the same day to play it. So stay tuned, as that will be coming very soon. I'm not going to do any game testing today, as I don't want this video to run on too long, but I will be posting another video in the coming weeks, testing games on our machine, and going a little more into detail on the specs. However, that is going to be all for this video today. Let me know what you think down below. Do you think my wife will notice the improvements with the Windows boot time or loading times with her games? What about how clean the PC looks compared to before? I did those cleaning and upgrades while she was at work, so she only really saw me taking videos of her PC before and after the fact, along with some of the editing, but I didn't mention exactly what I was doing. As well, I have to say, Happy 4th of July to my fellow Americans out there, as I know I will be celebrating tomorrow with some grilling and fireworks. If you plan to do the same, just be safe out there, as I don't want to hear about anyone losing fingers, or something even worse. Also, if I sounded a bit under the weather during some of my recordings, I definitely was while editing some of this video, and why I didn't get it uploaded last weekend. But I feel a heck of a lot better today, so hopefully I'm past all this. Anyway, I thank you all for stopping by, hope you have a great 4th of July weekend, and take care.